Oh.
Work is a pain in the apps. My files are in this app. My chat's in this app. Project.
Male A.B. Hernandez once again dominated the female competition at a California high school track meet yesterday, taking the top spot in 3 events. But in a surprise move, Hernandez ended up sharing the first place podium and a gold medal with the runner-up, who was an actual woman. It seems to be part of a new and confusing trend in California, where they're finally rewarding female athletes but still allowing biological males to compete against them. Tommy, I'm going to you first here. So this pilot policy. They started doing it last year. It allows additional biological, real women, to advance in championship competition, even if they are beat by a transgender athlete. So it sounds to me like they're just admitting what's been so unfair all along.
Oh, this is a full admission. They're saying, hey, we know that this is unfair, but we're going to do it anyway because we are so dedicated to woke and we are so afraid of offending the radical rainbow mafia that we're just going to continue to make women, actual women, partake in this humiliation cycle. Outkick has been all over this story, by the way. A lot of these photos come from Outkick. They've been all over A.B. Hernandez, who's been at this for a couple years now, if not longer. Listen, nothing against this person. I have nothing against A.B. Hernandez. But the fact that this person is willing to participate in this, knowing what it's doing to the actual women that are trying to compete in their own sports, to me, I lose respect for anybody who's willing to do this again and again and again. You know that you have an advantage, and you're still standing up there sharing a podium with a girl who has worked her entire life to get to that point. So they're admitting that this is unfair, but they continue to do it because that's California for you. And Gavin Newsom is going to have to answer for this when he runs for president, because he has said that this is unfair, but he still allows it in his state.
Well, Joe, it is very confusing, especially when you're talking about placements and competitions and the like. But now, I mean, you have 2 gold medalists standing in the same event next to each other.
Yeah, so here's the problem with this. Okay, if you're on a track, that's one thing. You're not even allowed to cross in each other's lane. The person just ran faster than you. You can ignore that. You can stand there with them. The whole reason this got started was a college volleyball player plotting to hurt another college volleyball player. That's right. And other players in other sports like that getting hurt by male athletes that were pretending to be females in team sports that involve physical contact or contact with a ball or a stick. That's the problem. This doesn't fix the problem. The problem isn't prejudice. The problem isn't sore losing. The problem is people got hurt and people tried to hurt others. And that is a big risk when it comes to someone whose body has experienced puberty with testosterone at those levels over someone else who has hardened bones and strength to a degree that can hurt people that are weaker than them, which is what happened in the volleyball. I believe it was volleyball where the young lady suffered a bad concussion. And so that's the problem. This doesn't address that at all. I'm telling you, I think most of those women.
We begin with Trey Yanks live from Tel Aviv with new reporting on a potential Iran deal. Good morning, Trey.
Yeah, hey guys, good morning. Overnight, President Trump announced that a deal with Iran has been largely negotiated. The president indicated there are still a number of small details and aspects that have to be worked out, but the deal will be announced shortly, according to the president. A regional source who has reviewed the agreement told Fox News the deal states that U.S. forces will stay in the proximity of Iran for 30 days. The context here is that it signals to Iran the military option remains on the table if nuclear issues aren't resolved or the interim agreement is violated. The source added that as part of the deal, Iran will receive oil sanctions waivers. Iran will also have frozen funds and assets released worth billions of dollars. On Saturday, President Trump held a call that included leaders from Saudi Arabia, Qatar, the UAE, Egypt, Jordan, Turkey, and Pakistan, aimed at reaching a broader understanding. A separate regional diplomat told Fox News the call was very positive. Good progress is being made, adding that regional leaders were supportive of the progress and of the breakthrough President Trump achieved with the talks. We are still awaiting all of the final details of this understanding, but President Trump said the Strait of Hormuz will be opened. Shortly after, Iranian state media pushed back on that aspect of his Truth Social post, saying despite some Western media reports claiming a return of the Strait situation to pre-war conditions, what is included in the possible understanding is not a full return to the previous status, but rather the restoration of the transiting vessels to pre-war levels within 30 days. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said this today about the negotiations.
There is the possibility that over the next few hours, the world will get some good news, at least with regards to the straits and with regards to a process that can ultimately leave us where the president wants us to be, and that is a world that no longer has to be in fear or worry about an Iranian nuclear weapon. And so I do think there's some good news on that front, but not final news on that front.
Reports do indicate this current draft includes Iranian commitments related to the country's nuclear program that will be discussed in the weeks ahead. Guys?
So, Trey, good. So, Trey, obviously one of the major sticking points of this deal is what happens to that nuclear material that remains in Iran today. What are the viable options for what happens to that?
So a lot of this deal has to do with interpretation, and I want to start with the Strait of Hormuz because Iranian state media is reporting the current agreement says that the return to a pre-war status is not on the table. It is a return to pre-war numbers, an indication that the Iranians see this as their country still controlling the Strait of Hormuz. Then you have the issue of Iran's nuclear program, and we are still awaiting these final details within the agreement, but there are questions about what will happen to that highly enriched uranium that remains inside of Iran, and also the production facilities that allow the Iranian regime to enrich uranium. Remember, the process here starts with the uranium ore that is extracted from the ground. It's then turned into yellow cake through a chemical reaction, and then into hydrofluoride gas that is spun in centrifuges. And those heavier particles go to the outside, and the lighter ones stay on the inside. And this process is repeated by the Iranians, and it allows them to create a pure form of highly enriched uranium. The deal, we do not know what it states about the lower levels of that enriched uranium. Remember, in terms of a civilian nuclear program, you're looking at just a few percentage points of highly enriched uranium. The Iranians currently, they say, have around 60% purity, which is very close to weapons-grade material. And the understanding, according to reports at this point, is that some of the details as it relates to Iran's nuclear program will still have to be discussed in the weeks ahead.
So let me pick up on that, Trey, because you're reporting about we do not yet know what the Iranian commitments are, but it appears to me that the commitments actually are what this deal hinges upon, whether or not it will become fruitful. And is there anything, as we wait to hear about the enriched uranium, is there any Iranian commitment to simply not pursue a nuclear weapon, which is the fundamental core of what President Trump wants to accomplish?
Reports do indicate that Iran's nuclear program is addressed in this initial draft, the memorandum of understanding that we expect could be signed as early as today. Some of those technical details, though, are quite important. President Trump has been very clear. Iran will never have a nuclear weapon, and he's not going to enter into an agreement with the Iranian regime that allows them a path towards such a weapon. So this is a multifaceted situation that will have to be addressed by U.S. negotiators with the help of Pakistan and other regional countries. The memorandum of understanding that is likely to be signed soon will lay the groundwork for a broader deal. And that deal, according to officials in the region, will ultimately include concessions as it relates to Iran's nuclear program. And again, if President Trump is following through on this commitment, will ensure that Iran never has a path to a nuclear weapon. And again, that includes removing the highly enriched uranium from Iranian territory that was buried in the aftermath of Operation Midnight Hammer. It includes ensuring that Iran does not have the production facilities to further enrich uranium that may remain in the country, and also that broader commitment by the Iranian regime that they will never obtain a nuclear weapon and threaten U.S. forces or allies across the Middle East.
Trey, really quickly, so we understand that President, as you stated, President Trump's goal in this was no nuclear Iran and also concerns over the Straits of Hormuz. Israel, our partner in this, had different goals. One of them was regime change. The Jerusalem Post reporting that Netanyahu was sidelined during these peace deals because of that difference in some of their goals. The New York Times reporting once Trump's co-pilot against Iran, Netanyahu now a mere passenger. Can you talk to us about the role of Israel in this deal? Were they sidelined? And also President Trump talked about different people in his own orbit, some wanting a peace deal, others not. We've heard Pompeo, Lindsey Graham, Ted Cruz expressing a lot of concern about a potential deal, and others in the White House saying that this is a good thing. Just kind of break that down for us about where all the politics are around the deal.
Yeah, Israeli officials have been largely quiet as this deal progressed because, as one official told me, they are loyal to President Trump and they believe in his judgment as it relates to ensuring that Iran will never have a nuclear weapon or threaten their country or U.S. forces that remain here. One Israeli political source speaking to Fox News today said the United States is updating Israel on the negotiations over a memorandum of understanding for reopening the Strait of Hormuz. The official goes on to say that this includes entering into the negotiations on a final agreement regarding the disputed issues, such as Iran's nuclear program. You know, one official actually pointed out that last month, President Trump posted on Truth Social the song My Way by Frank Sinatra. And they noted that President Trump is going to do this his way because he has the interests of the American people in mind. And he is committed to not dragging the United States into endless wars, but also understands the importance of ensuring that the Iranian regime doesn't have a nuclear weapon and a ballistic missile program that could threaten allies or forces across the region.
All right.
Thank you, Trey.
Live in Tel Aviv. Thank you, Trey.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.
President Trump staying at the White House this weekend, reportedly meeting with his national security team on whether to launch new strikes against Iran. Iran's state-run media claims its top negotiator told Pakistan's army chief that Iran's armed forces have been rebuilt during the ceasefire. Welcome to a special edition of Saturday in America. I'm Jonathan Hunt, in for Kayleigh McEnany. Let's get right to it with our foreign correspondent, Jeff Paul. He's in Dubai with more on the conflict in the Middle East. Jeff.
Yeah, Jonathan, and all eyes right now are on Iran, especially for the folks here in the Gulf and throughout the Middle East, to see if there are any sort of developments between the U.S. and Iran. Now, Tehran is reportedly reviewing the latest peace proposal, all while Secretary of State Marco Rubio says slight progress has been made. In fact, we know a delegation from Pakistan has just arrived in Tehran, which includes the country's army chief. They're meeting with the Iranian foreign minister and the Speaker of the Parliament as Pakistan works to hammer out a ceasefire deal between both sides. Now, for those who call Iran home, they're hoping progress can be made before the situation there gets any worse. Residents who live along Iran's southern coast say the closure of the Strait of Hormuz has been devastating.
I'm absolutely upset because the economic pressure from the closure of the Strait of Hormuz is falling on the people. Those who work at the docks, for example, are now almost all unemployed. If this strait is reopened, the economy will improve.
Now, Marco Rubio, who just landed in India after NATO meetings in Sweden, was just asked a little while ago if he's heard from Iran. Here's what he had to say.
There is a chance that whether it's later today, tomorrow, in a couple of days, we may have something to say, but this issue needs to be solved, as the president has said, one way or the other. Iran can never have a nuclear weapon. The straits need to be open without tolls. They need to turn over their enriched uranium. They need to turn over their highly enriched uranium.
As you just heard the U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio saying maybe they'll have some news to announce today, maybe tomorrow. Of course, this entire region is standing by watching to see if that happens. One other thing, Jonathan, to give you a little color from here on the ground in the UAE, an advisor for the president here says at this very moment he believes there's about a 50-50 chance that the U.S. and Iran can make a deal. And he said that because in the past, Iran has often, in his words, sort of overestimated or overplayed the cards that are in their hands. Jonathan?
And Jeff, do you get the idea there that the UAE and other Gulf countries very much want this to be a deal that is done diplomatically, or do they prefer the idea of the US and Israel going in and basically finishing the job, as the Wall Street Journal put it, and getting rid of the current Islamic regime in Iran?
I think the diplomatic route is what most Gulf countries prefer. Just a few days ago, you had leaders in Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and here in the UAE quite literally pushing President Trump to hold off on what was talked about as a planned attack of Iran to allow for negotiations to continue. And President Trump listened to those calls, and you can hear how Marco Rubio is phrasing it, that they want this diplomatic process or the negotiation process to take place. But, you know, as time goes on without any sort of news or any sort of reply, I think the patience could be running out. But I think for the countries here in the Gulf,
superpower. That's going to embolden them in terms of the control over their own population and also our allies in the region. Number two, the deal itself. Any deal that's that the idea that this regime would eventually go away and collapse as we hope, weakening of the regime, that they would be vulnerable to their own population based completely off the table, and we'll be dealing with this regime for years to come. That's the reality. And number three, even if they sign on a dotted line and put their signatures affixed to it, do we really believe that they're going to accomplish the goals that are stated in that agreement? Or are they going to do everything missile program and then covertly try to recover their nuclear program. Those are the reasons I think it's preferable to finish what we started and get back to combat operations. Got a couple of weeks to go. The regime will be much more weakened as a result of it, and they will be dealing with economic collapse.
And General, so it sounds like you very much agree with what the Wall Street Journal said, which we can put up on the screen here. Mr. President, finish the job in Iran, the Wall Street Journal wrote, and free the world from this hideous regime. Your bold action, something no other president has done, is push the Ayatollahs to the brink. Now is the time to finish them off. But General, if we follow that path and try to finish off the Islamic regime in Iran, what is it going to take, General? Because the U.S. military has done an incredible job in the mission that they have so far been charged with, but it hasn't come close, it appears, to finishing off the regime. So what does it take to follow your preferred path?
Well, we've been gathering intelligence for 6 weeks. The fact of the matter is, we've got a lot of good resolution on the remaining military and economic targets. We have the capability to reduce those military targets quite dramatically. And also, we have the capability to take away from them every single revenue source that they have by attacking their capabilities to produce that revenue, whether it's at Card Island or whether it's inside the country itself. The power of the military to do that is quite significant. And we never said it would produce regime change. We did say it would so weaken the regime that it would be vulnerable to its people and its resistance. That goal is still quite achievable. We don't leave the regime with anything of consequence. They don't have the revenue to rebuild. They don't have the revenue to pay the people that are working for them. And obviously, I think with the assistance of the CIA and the Mossad, there's much that we can do to undermine the regime when it's in such a weakened state like that, and also assist the Iranian people in terms of their resistance. I still think that is by far the preferable path. That was the path that we started out with, and I think it's preferable to get back to that path. It gives us a much better finish here in terms of this regime's future. They will be empowered here as a result of the deal, and they will continue to use that empowerment with our allies and partners. They will threaten to take down the Straits of Hormuz again and use that as leverage. And that is why we have to physically take the Straits of Hormuz back from them.
All right. General Jack Keane, it is always an honor to talk to you, sir, on this Memorial Day weekend. Thank you for your service to our country and to our viewers this morning. Thank you, General.
Yeah, great talking to you, John.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox 1.
Bring in our friend, Fox News Chief Political Analyst Britt Hume. So good to see you. In all your years of covering Washington, D.C., the Pentagon is one that does briefings quite regularly, but this was a little unusual. And get your take on how you thought they did this morning.
Well, I was very impressed, especially with General Kane, whose description of how as Jennifer has just outlined, of how the targeters in the Pentagon, going back, 15 years, had planned for this moment. The B-2 had been built for this moment, and the bunker-buster bombs had been too for this very moment. And I think it's fair to say that the problem with that early report that leaked out of the Defense Intelligence Agency was that it wasn't really plausible that ordnance of this capacity that had been tested to the extent it could be by the U.S. military, and that, so far as we could tell, struck the target precisely, would have done only limited damage. It was obviously a preliminary report, and as Jennifer pointed out in her reporting when it first came out, it was low confidence, and it seems to have deserved low confidence based on all that we've heard since. Obviously, final reports are yet to be heard, but it was an impressive briefing, especially by General Kane. I'd like to say a word, if I may, Dana, about Jennifer Griffin, who was attacked by the Defense Secretary today, an attack she certainly, in my view, did not deserve. Her professionalism, her knowledge, and her experience at the Pentagon is unmatched, and I have had and still have the greatest regard for her. The attack on her was unfair.
One thing I was gonna mention, about that, Britt, is that.
How many
The
pages?
first level of intel, it gets higher up as you go to CIA and DNI. And it reminded me of the 2004 exit polls, right? These first reports can often be wrong, and that's what they were trying to today.
I mean, Brett, I was just gonna ask you, go ahead, Brett.
Go ahead, Bill, I'm sorry.
No, please, go.
No, I was just gonna say that it is typical of the media in our age that any negative report that you can get your hands on the aftermath of the United States.
Inakwambia
Is going to be highlighted, played up, and so on, despite the fact that it's early, based on very little and low confidence. And it's disappointing that happens, it continues to happen, but it does.
And Brett, you can tell the administration is just really irritated about those initial leaks and how they were portrayed in the leaks to the media. The president last night, when he was announcing his press conference, teased it as offering irrefutable proof that these strikes were a success. Do you think
picked just one product for my silk press. It's Shea Moisture Silk Press in a bottle. I apply a few pumps of freshly washed and detangled hair before blow drying. It's lightweight and takes up to 410 degrees, and it keeps frizz and humidity under control. This has to be my best at-home silk press yet.
The game is dead, bro. I think so. Right now, most of our sales is a lot of Chrome Hearts, Gold Star, most of the clothes, really. Really?
But like Vans? We thought Vans were gonna come back.
Crazy.
Bro, man, we've been selling Vans like water.
What do you think about the sneaker industry right now?
You're using them more than ever. But I've been telling people, I think just now is the time to buy it.
I don't know, because now I feel like they're pumping out so much of it where it won't be as hyped, but I still think it got. Yeah. Is that a shoe you like?
For the white.
Oh, for the wife. Nice.
Yeah. Think about for Christmas.
For Christmas time? All right, let's get her a. Let's do it. Of course I'm doing it. Welcome back. Another video. It says, are sneakers really dead? This is a question that a lot of people have been asking, and it's something we're going to go into detail with and figure out if that's really true. Stay tuned. Okay, so a lot of people. have been realizing that sneakers, the sneaker industry, the sneaker market has been slowing down a bit. Nike's down probably 80%, and a lot of people are wondering or curious about if sneakers are really dead. Now, for us specifically, as you can see, we still have people shopping in here. There's a lot of different things going on. People still selling shoes. Everything is still going the way it's supposed to, right? But a lot of people are worried because they see these things and the prices of things going down, and they're kind of curious about how they can keep and stay afloat, right? But for us, for example, we do it a lot of different ways. We're very adaptive to the things that are going on. So for example, like right now, as you can see, we've got probably 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 15 to 20 orders. These are more orders going out. So we do have a lot of stuff on shopcoolkicks.com. A lot of our online stuff has started to really grow, which is really good for us. Miguel's back there holding it down, doing his thing with that. But the thing with the sneaker industry nowadays is the days of people taxing, the days of people putting things way over market and things like that are completely over with. So you gotta remember, if you wanna stay in this market and be competitive, you gotta price your things fairly. You gotta buy things at the right price. You gotta sell at the right price. And as I was saying before, you can't put things for $100, $200, $300 over market. People aren't buying it. The consumer's not spending on that kind of stuff. When you have good deals, like for example, Red Force selling these for $150, right?
With high transportation costs and logistics headaches, the Cinetech Group Mobile Batching Plan is your solution. No foundations required.
And people do for fun out here. They nothing to do here. Work, eat, play. Say that banger. Now that's more than all.
This is oil country. Deep in the Permian Basin, the country's largest oil field, life is different.
Okay,
This is the main road, right?
yeah,
This is the,
this is it.
most of the people that live here have always been.
When I moved over here with the bust, it was $8 a barrel, no jobs. It seemed like half the town was for sale.
Well, you actually look like a sheriff.
I'm working on it.
We wanted to explore oil country and visit the most remote corners of the state.
We have a cult group that's trying to colonize.
So come with me to remote Texas oil country. Our journey ends in America's smallest county by population, Loving County. Just 65 people live out here, but it starts in the oil city of Odessa. But once we left Odessa, things started to change fast. You can't appreciate the scale of the Permian Basin until you drive through it. It's America's largest oil field, and it alone produces more oil than Iraq, Qatar, and the UAE. Our first stop was the town of Kermit. It started as an oil boom town in the 1920s. Its population peaked in 1950, and it's undergone several cycles of boom and bust since.
Now, when I moved over here with the bust, it was $8 a barrel, no jobs. It seemed like half the town was for sale. And I've been here since then. Eventually, you get to know most everybody around here. That the oil field is a place where you don't have to have an education to make decent money. I know a lot of people that's not even graduated high school and built a business. We moved America.
I've never seen that. Mitt Romney's driving that car. Unbelievable. What? Here is almost 90% of the
right now I want to bring my mom down, make it fun, make it up. So I in USA and Germany. If I ever hurt.
So the name of this county is Winkler. It's actually Winkler, named after a Confederate colonel named C.M. Winkler, who surrendered with General Robert E. Lee at Appomattox, and here's a memorial to all the Confederates who served in the Texan Confederate Army. How long have you lived here?
4 years.
How has it changed?
Well, I lived here.
What brought your parents here?
My daddy was a farmer, and I was walking the they didn't get it down. Finger banger. And that's more than all. I'm a roughneck.
What's a roughneck? What's that life like?
For a young man, but it's like, basically, you know, 40 years old.